We want people to walk in and feel like, I'm smart, I chose you. How would the customer feel? You just took my money, do you still care about me? We want to know that somebody gives a damn about our success or failure. We try to manage it logically, but ultimately the emotions win. They win all the time.
Joseph, welcome to the show. How are you?
It's great to be here, Steve. Fabulous. Thanks for asking.
A lot of people know that people that come on my show I either know or are friends of people that I know, so I try to keep everything in a circle. And Charlie Fusco came to me and she said, you've got to speak to Joseph. And I was like, yeah, who is he, and all this kind of stuff. And she started telling me about your books, and then I was like, well, hang on a minute, I got all of those. I know that you've worked with Ritz Carlton, Starbucks, Mercedes-Benz, Airbnb, Zappos, and you know a thing or two about the customer experience, the customer journey. I know that for a fact because I've read your books. This is a term that's bandied around a lot. What does it really mean?
Well, it's really everything and nothing, right? It's like it's a phrase that has gotten so beaten up. You know, customer experience used to be customer service, and then we realized it's not just that service phase of a customer journey. It's every touch point along the journey of the customer. It really is how the customer perceives the brand at every interaction it has, from contemplation to call to sequel.
All right. So there's a big difference between, say, Amazon, Zappos, Starbucks. So how do we first look at whether or not we've got an experience or we've got a journey or whether or not we've just got a transaction?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm actually, my next book after the one that I'm currently have out is about Amazon. So the reality of all of this is that whether or not a customer perceives themselves to be in relationship or just fulfilling a need for an object for some money. And if you get right down to it, a lot of times we just want what we want and we don't really care about the brand. We don't care about having it enveloped in an experience. It's very much a commodity to us. But if you want loyalty, then you have to get beyond that commoditization and start getting inside of the relationship with the customer.
Yeah, and I think we've got to identify straight off the bat, it's not a bad thing. You know, when we look at Zappos did absolutely phenomenal with that customer experience. And you almost, I've never, ever wanted to phone a customer service line before. But with them, it used to be press 1 to get through to, shoe sizes, 2 for joke of the day. You know, they really did a fantastic job of that. And then you've got Amazon that's got none of that, but it doesn't take away what Amazon does. So I think the first thing you've got to do is decide where you want to be on that spectrum. If you could give us some examples, who exceeds, in your opinion, with a customer service and the customer journey?
Well, I think if you're going to go to a Ritz Carlton, you don't want them just to leave a light on for you, as they did in Motel 6 in the 70s and 80s, right? I mean, the value proposition is one where you want to be nurtured. You want to leave there feeling that people anticipated your needs, not just fulfilled them. So they have also margin to be able to enhance the customer experience and make sure they have people at the ready at memorable moments in the customer journey. If you're shopping from Amazon predominantly, you just want it fast and cheap and as much choice as you possibly can get for those items. So they want to strip away things that actually add complexity or cost to the journey.
Are we losing any of those at the moment, you think? I know the world's changing constantly, what with AI, chatbots, you click the button now, hey, chat with us online, and you straight away get, I'm Bobby, you're such and such bot. And you go, shit, it's not a real person. So how are we changing towards our interpretation of what the experience and the journey is?
Well, I think ultimately we are moving to a place where AI is going to have a great role for us all. It's going to personalize our offerings. I have great hope for it. And certainly it's going to enable us to not have to opt for a human all the time. The sad challenge right now is figuring out where do we put the humans and how do we keep the humans? And you do even give people a choice, because most of the time these chatbots are popping up when we would just as soon ask for a quick question from a human, but we can't get there unless we yell or scream, human, person, help, agent, something 17 times and spin around. So I think the challenge is figuring out how do we locate the right number of people at the right touch points along a journey so that people can opt in human when it's relevant. But also that we have the aid of technology when people just want to self-serve.
Now, I've spoken to Peter Diamandis and Elon Musk, and both of them have basically come up with the same number that in 2029, AI is going to have a conversation with us as though it was a human being, and in a lot of situations be far more accurate. So, and a lot of people are scared of that, but you went, oh, I welcome it. Does it change, alter, or diminish the customer service that you are going to give your clients and your potential prospects by focusing on AI today?
Well, Steve, I hate to tell you, but I actually am AI. I am not a person. So this whole thing is a little ahead of course. Yeah, I wish I had the accuracy of some AI, but then, AI has its hallucinations right now. And so you're not really sure in some instances whether it's accurate or not. There's all the issues of privacy. There's all the issues of bias built into the program, which just reinforces its bias. So I think we have a long way to go before AI fully realizes its benefit. At the same time, we need humans at the helm to deal with the ethical issues of leveraging a technology that is as powerful as this can very well be. So I am an optimist about this. I think there's going to be an increased craving for people. There's already some research Gartner showed that, millennials and Gen Zs are wanting more people around to help them with service. Heaven forbid, when a primary form of communication is technology driven for a generation, even they are starting to say, has this gotten a little too far? Where are the people? I just want to sometimes ask a question. So I think we're going to see it wash out in the end. Like lots of these technologies, they have everything is going to change and all hell is going to break loose. And on the flip side, we normally level these out in time and the marketplace regulates it.
Now, I've got your book on Starbucks and Zappos, two of my favorite brands. Your latest book, tell us about the latest book.
It's got an accent to it, kind of not unlike an accent that you seem to be carrying with you. It's actually based on a company out of Sydney. Two brothers, David and Aidan Hope. They took on the telecoms. What a stupid idea that was, right? It's David against Goliath, and the Goliath was Telstra, a government-owned legacy player that could care less about your experience. Utilities in general have had a bad rap in that regard, but telephone companies, particularly those serving the business market, didn't make it easy. And so David said, hey, we don't have much money, but we have a lot of interest in creating value for markets that are underserved and overcharged. And so let's see what we can do. Let's make bills readable. Let's really target a mid-sized business market, and let's deliver high quality service and really understand their business and truly be a partner in their success instead of a impediment to their success. And lo and behold, people moved to them in droves, and they went from telecom to all kinds of technology offerings, cyber, government, cloud. And they really are a deal. So the funny story for me is that when I got a call from a CEO of a telecom asking me if I could help them develop an even greater commitment to customer experience, having read my book on Ritz Carlton, I said, is this a prank phone call? I mean, this truly is I'm really getting punked here. And truthfully, he was all in, and he'd been on a journey, and that journey continues today. And I thought, unlike telling all the stories of these household brands that you and I have been kicking around today, wouldn't it be nice if people could see themselves in the underdog role, see how using technology and people in the right way could enable them to create greater customer loyalty and referrals? And that's how they roll.
Name of the book, where can they get it?
Customer Magic. And I like to say any place, a good bookstore, anybody who carries it's a good bookstore. So go to any bookstore online. Otherwise, you'll find it easily accessible. You find my name, look for Customer Magic, you'll find it.
All right. Okay. How do you pronounce your last name? I know I've had a problem with that a couple of times. I've misspelled it a couple of times.
You can say anything you want. It's Michelli, but I go by anything as long as there's food attached.
Yeah, make sure the check's written correctly and you can call me what you like. All right, exactly. Joseph Michelli, great. So let's get down into the weeds for a second. So a lot of my people on this, we've got a lot of people that are in startup businesses, medium-sized businesses, some high businesses. What are the fundamentals of a quality customer journey, a quality customer experience?
I think it starts with understanding what you want your customers to feel every single interaction, every time. Your brand is nothing more than what people say about you when you're not around. So you better identify what you want them to feel. It's one thing to have a checklist in operations and say, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and that's great. But when you look at it, we do all those things. How does it leave the customer feeling? Because if that customer isn't feeling in a branded sort of way, then you're not delivering a branded customer experience. If you're not making the emotional connection, they're easy to churn. So if you look at something like Ritz Carlton, they want people to feel like they entered the home of a loving parent. They want to make sure everybody feels like they got loved on by mom and dad, right? And so that's the goal. That's very different than a value proposition where they just want to wow you at Zappos. They want to do it in a kind of quirky wow style. And so knowing that means you give people a lot of latitude to infuse that in their humanity or in the way they design the experiences for the consumer.
So in a world that's just saturated with technology and everything's AI, and if it's not AI, then it's probably built by AI, you've just said human connectivity, emotions, and God, you brought up this word that scares a lot of people in today's world, feelings. How you feel and how what you do makes that person feel. We're all kind of trying to hold those things down, and you're going, no, to make a real true customer experience, bring it to the forefront. How does what you do and operate and provide make the recipient feel? Is that correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I am a psychologist by training, so everything looks like a nail when you have a hammer, right? So for me, emotions really do drive. But it's not just my training. There's so much research from behavioral economics that show we justify our decision making as a rational process, like a weighing it out intellectually. On balance, I choose this. In reality, the drivers of choice are emotional, they're limbic system driven. And that's true in the B2B space as much as it's in the B2C space. Yes, I have to be careful and make very rational choices in the B2B, but realistically, I'm still going to go, all things being equal, I'm going to go with that partner who allows me to sleep better at night. I'm going to go with that partner who I know if I call you, you're going to have my back. All things being equal. We are human beings who want to have other human beings connected to us to support us in a journey of technology or products. We want to know that somebody gives a damn about our success or failure, not just that they can fulfill our needs per our specs.
I'm interrupting this podcast for 35 seconds to give you more value. If you are an ambitious entrepreneur looking for the opportunity in everything you come across, don't just listen to this podcast. Imagine taking part in these conversations every week. Imagine having a new network of creative and disruptive entrepreneurs to support and push you into becoming the person you can be. With this high level and exclusive community, it exists. Head to simsdistillery.com to learn more.
So I'm talking to an expert in psychology, human psychology, and in mastering the experience. And I've always said that as advanced and as developed as a civilization and as a species that we are, we still want to find that person that we don't have to sleep with our eyes open. We want to feel relaxed and you literally just said it. So as advanced as we are, we still want the basics, don't we?
Yeah, I want to be able to give you my wallet when I go swimming, right? Like I want to be able to trust that when I come back, you're not going to be two blocks away. And that's true, I think, in almost all relationship elements. Please have my interests as primary in your business. And we continue to get disillusioned by brands who tell us they do that, but they make bad choices on behalf of the customer. They make what I call bad profit. They're willing to betray the loyalty of the customer for short-term profits. And so my challenge is working with leaders who really get it, that the long-term success of a business is predicated on your ability to work on the emotional trust factors and an emotional connectivity that's basic to your brand. And it can be very different. I mean, truly, Zappos and Ritz Carlton are about as far apart as you can get. And I've worked with both. And, Starbucks somewhere in the middle where we're creating this third place where you can come to where you feel affordable luxury. Now, do they execute it every time in every store? No, but that's the goal of a brand, is to figure out how do we consistently deliver our branded customer experience that causes people to say, this is my tribe. I belong here. They've got me. They understand me and they'll protect me.
That's also something that we should labor on for a second. And that's like, for argument's sake, Starbucks. I love traveling through Italy, as a European boy, as a Brit. I love having a nice coffee. And you go to Italy and you just love sitting in a coffee house. It's the culture. But you go to Starbucks, not necessarily for the greatest coffee in the planet, but for the consistency. You'll walk into McDonald's, you know what to expect. You'll walk into Starbucks, you know what to expect. So why is consistency, whether or not it's good or bad, but it meets the expectation, why is that so important to us as people?
Well, there's definitely a time to have discovery. You know, when I was in Tuscany, I tried to go to as many Italian coffee counters as I could every morning and experience the variety of it all. There's another point where you don't want to be negatively surprised. You know, I just want the familiar. I want those fuzzy slippers. I want the routine. I want the ritual. I want to touch a home. You know, there's a point where you say, hey, well, I'll do a Starbucks because that just reminds me of my taste profile of coffee that I'm most familiar with. And then if you don't deliver that, if the cup experience isn't the same in Beijing as it is in Boston, then you fail the brand. But if the delivery experience isn't the same either, if the environment isn't clean, if there isn't an eagerness to welcome you into your third place, then you miss the mark. And so I think the brands are trying to figure out how do we make sure product consistency is predictable. So when people want that predictability, they get it. And otherwise go somewhere else and enjoy a really lovely cup of coffee that doesn't taste anything like what you get at Starbucks.
So when you're identifying your brand interaction, and again, as we've already said, you know, the emotion, the brand, all of that is spoken about when you're not in the room. You're not even in the conversation when your brand is being identified between two other human beings. As a brand and as a company, you need to lay out what do you want your brand to be known for? What do you want that conversation to be? And what are you doing to install it and trigger it that is the conversation that they're having about you when you're not in the room? How can they do that?
Well, I think it starts with, if you look at your values, normally we're saying this is what we value. And then the point is, if we value that, how is that going to live in the life of the customer? Values are often the terms we apply, like integrity, right? Like that was an Enron value, by the way. I find that very amusing, but
yes.
You know, that might be our value, but what is that going to mean if we lived our value? How would the customer feel? Let's go to their side of the interaction and let's think about that. They would probably feel like they made a sound choice, right? Like, we want people to walk in and feel like, I'm smart, I chose you, right? Like, I'm smart, I chose you. That's different than saying, we want you to feel that we live by integrity, right? And the values often have to be flipped around so they're not so navel gazing and introspective, but that if they extend into the life of the customer would feel this, see this, think this, do this, experience this at the high level touch points. And, you know, let's realistically, some of these relationships we have with customers go for long periods of time, and we have shortcomings and we have breakdowns and we have to turn those into breakthroughs. But there are certain moments that matter more than others, like arrivals, like transition moments. When I go from one state of being to the other, you just took my money. Do you still care about me? I'm in a service relationship with you. You've already sold me the product. You care as much in service as you did when you were trying to get me to buy it. There's some real key moments, and understanding the key touch points along a customer journey and really putting your energy around that means that you're triaging and using your resources wisely along a journey.
Wow, that's a masterclass there. There's a lot of people that have got fantastic sales force, and then as soon as the check's cleared, they can't remember your first name. So that's beautiful to know about that. To move it, because those pivotal moments, and I call them question marks. As you go through different things, I've upsold it, I've got into this upgrade, I've just purchased this, you know, do they still love me? Those question mark periods. But you also talk about the logic versus the emotion. And so when we're involved in that period of communication, when we're having that conversation, our brain is operating, you know, they're looking at, well, is there value in me buying this? Or, oh, look how he's making me feel during this conversation. What's more powerful, the logic or the emotion?
Well, the emotion is driving and the logic is trying to make sense of it and ultimately supporting the emotion. So let's say you don't call me back, you know, that I'm waiting on a test procedure and you, doc, have not called me back. You know, I start to not only wonder about that result, but I start to wonder about whether or not you really care at all about me as a doctor, and are you competent, and where did you go to medical school? It's funny how quickly it just unravels into a sea of doubt, right? You just keep pulling the thread on the doubt. And, you know, it's logically we start saying, well, you know, of course they're busy and they care. And we try to we try to manage it logically, but ultimately the emotions win. They win all the time. And so we need to really address the emotional truths for people as they walk into our world. And we need to understand how they feel and what we want them to feel and how our behaviors contribute to their feeling states.
I love this conversation, and I fully agree and endorse everything you're saying. But you've also got to know the playing field that you're in. And I think that COVID has dealt us a different state of mind. And, when I teach people about, speaking on stages, I say, look, know your audience, know what they want, but also know the temperature of the room. What mood are they in? You talk to someone in an angry state differently than you do in a very happy state. I've always said, if you find someone who just won the lottery yesterday, they'll buy anything. They don't care. But if you find someone just been cheated on by their wife, they're in a really different state of mind. We're in a very cynical world today. And of course, we've got wars. We're just getting over COVID, where everyone feels as though they've been manipulated and lied to. We've got the media, fake media. We don't trust what we see. We're in a very cynical state today. How can we converse and connect with people when the first thing that someone thinks when they actually meet us or discover us, even on an Instagram page, is, what is this person after? How does that state of mind alter and change today? Or how does that communication to that person change today as it was, like, say, pre-COVID?
Well, first and foremost, you're not going to be able to convince somebody who's cynical that they shouldn't be cynical. So I think you have to embrace people wherever they are.
Love that.
That's a starting point, because the more you tell them, I'm the real authentic deal. You don't have to worry about me. I mean, the more I worry about you, you can't microwave trust, right? Like, it's not something that forms immediately. And in fact, I think it's healthy for people to be cynical. Maybe we've gone a little too far in the cynicism, because sometimes, a cigar is just a cigar, and the thing is what it is, and you can't parse it out into your worldview. But ultimately, I think we have to be willing to say, I know what my intentions are. I know what I strive to deliver in terms of an experience for you. I am committed to that, and I'm going to keep plugging. Some of you will never believe it. So be it. Many of you will be slow to believe it. That's fine. But you're going to believe it if you stick with me long enough. And I'm just going to keep moving my feet, and enough people will see, what my intention is over time, that I'll be just fine. It's the people who don't have a centered intention, who are trying to get people past that cynicism, that are only creating more cynicism for the rest of us, which makes it easier when authenticity prevails.
Jeepers. All right, so I'm going to have fun splitting this up for little socials, because you're dropping some beautiful little bombs there. Now, we've spoken about Ritz Carlton, we've spoken about Zappos, we've spoken about Starbucks, and now the underdog taking on the telecommunication company. Where can people find out all about you and your books?
Well, I am mercilessly everywhere on the internet. If you find my name, you're going to find me. I think my LinkedIn title is Joseph Michelli. How creative is that, right? And I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, you name it. I'm there. But more importantly, in terms of finding this book, I strongly encourage just looking. I think it's readcustomermagic.com is the URL they're coming up with for this thing. So readcustomermagic.com would be the place to learn more about Macquarie Telecom and this book, a value proposition, I think, that relates more to the average business than a lot of these superstar businesses I've had the good fortune of writing about.
All right, we're going to be putting those links in below. I do urge you. As I say, when I heard about this guy, I was like, well, I know who's introducing me and I trust her. And then I looked around to my library and found out that I've already got most of the books that you've written. So I went from very interested to fan. So, Joseph, thank you very much for doing it. But thank you very much for kind of like reestablishing the difference between logic and emotion, understanding that we really haven't advanced that much, but understand whether or not you're trying to create a relationship or a transaction, and know that lane that you're in and operate your journey experience on that. Anything to add?
I would simply say thank you, Steve, for your kindness, and also for being willing to support people who wear black shirts and have goatees.
There you go. I think we should start a fan club on it. Joseph, I wish you all the best, and thank you very much for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. You know what to do. If you love it, share, subscribe, but more than anything, do something with it. And remember, life's too short to play it safe. So disrupt, connect, and grow. See you next time.